Inside police active shooter training after, is it Uvalde? Is it Valde? I'm not sure. I mean, they'll say it here, right? Vice News. You know, Vice always has to come with the more downer news, but this is important. So, let's look at it, see what happens. All I gotta say now, it's fucked up, but thank God I'm not in school anymore. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? It's insane.
Shots. Open door.
Okay, so we're watching this active shooter drill. You can hear gunshots down the hallway.
Down the hall. Yeah, move. Move.
Get the fuck out.
In there, in there.
I'm not putting up with this anymore. 5 years.
Damn. Got his ass.
Black over blue jeans, got one down
Jesus.
inside the hall. Room opens up deep right.
They're going in. This is ALERT, the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training Center. The FBI has named this training the national standard for how cops should respond to an active shooter.
It's scary. How do you get people to overcome their natural responses?
There's a term that we call stress inoculation. It's just like any other inoculation where you get dose of something and your body builds up a tolerance to it. We have to do that with stress. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be confusing. Any human being doesn't.
Because before it goes on, it's really fucked up having to go into a situation where you have to go in and stop a school shooter. There's a lot of factors involved. It's not just as simple as going in there and shooting somebody, right? Because it involves shooting the right person, not shooting wrong people, not fucking up and identifying the wrong person. It's a lot of things, because you could walk in there and a lot of times the dude could literally just be dressed as a normal fucking I saw my whole train of thought. He could be dressed as a normal student, right? Sometimes, if you're lucky, well, not lucky, sometimes you'd identify because they'll have a big ass gun, but what if they just have a pistol? He could just start shooting and then stuff the pistol in his pocket and then walk right past you. Turn around, bang, bang. It's just really hectic. There's a lot of stuff on the line. There's a lot of kids, students, teachers running right past you. It's a lot. And I think it's good that they have to drill this now. It sucks that they have to though, because it's really sad that this has to become our reality now. Well, it doesn't have to, but it's sad this is becoming our reality where you have to drill constantly for school shootings and stuff like that. But it's a good thing that it's happening now, right?
Instinctively want to run towards this and risk everything. But
it's a good thing we're training.
Else's lives are at risk currently. We have to.
The center was created over 20 years ago after the massacre at Columbine High School, which permanently changed how law enforcement responds to active shooters, from waiting for backup to confronting a shooter immediately.
Are there ways to respond incorrectly?
When it takes too long for us to figure out what's happening, there's a sea of things that we could choose to do, but there's one or two correct things initially, and that's stop the killing, stop the dying. If we do anything other than that, then we're wasting time and resources on things that are not going to save as many lives as possible.
Which is true.
In Uvalde, police arrived at the
okay.
school 2 minutes after an 18-year-old entered the building and started firing. As the shooting continued, as many as 19 officers were inside the building in a hallway, while children and teachers hid in classrooms calling 911. Still, the officers didn't breach the doors.
For the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision, period.
It took at least 75 minutes before officers unlocked the doors and took down the shooter.
Which is
by then,
disgusting.
19
That's
students
crazy.
And 2 teachers were dead. While ALERT didn't train the Uvalde police, the officers who responded had gone through a similar active shooter training just 2 months earlier, in March.
When you look at what happened in Uvalde, there's a, very public conversation now about.
See, a lot of that in that situation is just it's kind of like the bystander effect, right? No individual cop, because they're probably told don't go in, right? A lot of them probably thought to themselves, I should definitely go in, right? But you don't want to be the one. It's really hard to be the outlier, right? It's really hard to be the one who does the right thing even when everyone's telling you it's the wrong thing. It's really hard to do, So that's why you see it all the time. It's really easy to just go along with it. You've seen it all throughout history. You've seen it during World War II. You've seen it during every war really. You've seen it during what was it called? It was an experiment where like they divided a whole school, and then they said, these guys are now lesser, you are superior, and you saw how easy it is for you just to go along with it. It's very easy to go along with the majority, and it's really hard to break out of that and do the right thing in the minority. So that's probably what happened here, is that a lot of, at least a couple of them, out of all the cops that responded, what they say, like 20 plus cops responded. One of them honestly probably was like, I want to do it. But the spirits were like, no.
What is that like here when you guys see that unfold?
It's easy to get emotionally charged, and when you watch that, because you understand the tragedy across the board that's happening. But we have to be patient. We have to wait, get actual facts, data, and then we know what we're dealing with. This is something that it doesn't happen as often as the stuff we do day to day. Traffic stops, take reports, investigate crimes of other natures that occur on a regular basis. What's required for us to be able to handle one of these is something totally different than what we do day to day.
This is our breaching facade. So you can practice all kinds of breaching, from ramming things to prying things open to
this is off topic, but wouldn't it be lit to have a go-kart? Like a cart, like what he's driving? That'd be pretty lit.
We'll come out here and do training. At this point in time, we trained more than 200,000
I'm off topic, my fault.
responders representing every state in the country.
Dr. Pete Blair's been studying what happens during mass shootings for over a
decade.
Just he literally wrote a book called Active Shooter Events and Response.
You can just whip that.
What happens to people when they're in that real
you go crazy in it.
So if you get under a high level of stress, your heart rate goes through the roof, right? You get the adrenaline dump, you have tunnel vision start to kick in, audio exclusion where you don't hear things very well. People can freeze up and go into code black, we call it, where they're just not functional. And so you look at places like the fire service and other disciplines where they're training almost every day, if not every day. It's always ongoing, there's always something happening. So often in law enforcement, training is a separate special event that happens, and we do that training and then we move on and we go back to doing our job, and then that's kind of it.
Is it possible to really ever be prepared for something like this happening in real life?
Ultimately, will you ever know until you encounter that situation on the day? And the answer is you can't. You can't know for sure.
Yeah, you're never really ready to like go stop a shooting, It really just depends on you as a person, because as they say, intellectual time, you never know who you truly are until you're at your breaking point, right? You really never, like, you could assume you're as heroic as you possibly could be. You will never really know until you're put in a situation where you have to put everything on the line and be the hero you think you are, And that we saw that happen. That day. So
until you've encountered
it's really easy to just say, just go in.
Prepare you for it as best we can.
It is very easy to say that.
What you're trying to do, you've experienced something close to it before, and hopefully on that day you'll be able to respond appropriately.
Not to say I agree.
Despite the tens of millions of dollars
they shouldn't have gone in. They should have gone in, but it's really easy just to be like, just go for it.
Have been slow to respond before Uvalde. The school safety officer at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was charged with neglect for staying outside during that attack. 17 people died. And 31 police officers were sued for not protecting the dozens who were killed and wounded at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando.
A lot of people watching the response in Uvalde, I think, have lost a lot of faith in police response. How do you convince people that it's worth continuing to invest in training?
What else would you do is the first question. Like, okay, what's the...
That was the dumbest question. Not her question. Her question isn't dumb. That's the dumbest question people in society could ever ask is, why should we continue to invest in police training? Well, obviously, if they were doing this training beforehand, this would be an entirely different situation, right? The reason why is that they're not training the situation For example, you can't just expect me to go to a tournament or esports tournament or whatever and just get first place, right? Like, you can't expect me just to go into a high profile situation, first time ever, and expect great results, right? They need to keep repping and repping and repping and be put under stress, right? That's why the Army, Marines, all those are so effective, is because they're constantly put under stress. They're constantly put under situations where they would crack, so that they keep building up the resistance to fear, the resistance to pressure, so that they can operate while under extreme pressure, But if you just fully cut out that training, then this is going to keep happening, but more frequently. Like, they're just not going to go in. They're not going to do, because they just don't know what to do. They know what to do, but they don't know what to do. Their head will tell them, sure, let's go do it. Or their heart will tell them, let's go do it. But then they're not in line, One's saying, let's go. The other one's saying, fuck no. So, like,
the solution, then you're going to say we don't.
It's a lot harder.
Training, we don't spend any effort on it.
It's an actual topic.
See if things
to
get
think
worse.
about.
But in some sense, we've accepted the reality that the mass shooting is going to happen. It's just about how many people die.
For us, it's about how do we respond better to limit that. The solution to me is that we need more training. And simply checking the box and saying that I went to active shooter training at some point in my career is not enough to prepare you to respond to that event. You have to practice those things. And that's why we are big proponents of policing moving toward a training culture where that training is happening all the time.
Fair enough. Thank you, Vice. A Vice banger. But I agree, though. I think that is the issue, really, is that there's not enough training. Because back then, you didn't need that training, Like, back then, the hardest crime you're going to solve was, like, maybe someone got murdered, but it was like a one-time situation, and then you just investigated it, you found out who it was, you might have a shootout, maybe, but it's not like it's only you guys involved. It's not like mass people. Now it's like a whole thing. I understand both sides. I understand everything.